I buried my husband, Thomas, on a gray Saturday that bled into an even grayer night. It felt like the sky itself refused to let me forget what had happened, that he was gone, that every corner of our house would echo with an absence too loud to bear. I remember clutching his phone as I sat on the edge of our bed that night. I don't know why I kept it. Maybe because it still held his final missed calls. Maybe because in some irrational part of me, I thought he'd text me to say he was okay, that all of this was just a cruel mistake. His phone was dead now, the battery long drained from sitting on our dresser for days. But I couldn't let it go. The first 3 days were a haze of condolences and casseroles. Friends and family drifted in and out like shadows. They spoke softly, they cried gently, but eventually they all left, and I was alone in this too-big house. Alone with his photos on the walls, his smell still faint on his pillow. Alone with my thoughts. It was on the 4th night that things started to crack. I woke up at 2:13 a.m. to the softest vibration. It was so subtle I thought I'd imagined it. But then I heard it again, a low, dull hum coming from the dresser. I sat up, heart pounding. It had to be his phone. But that was impossible, wasn't it? The battery was dead. I knew it. I'd checked it over and over, like picking at a scab that won't heal. I grabbed my own phone. The screen showed no missed calls, no notifications. Nothing. The vibration came again. I got out of bed, my feet sinking into the plush rug he'd hated so much. I almost laughed. He'd always said it felt like stepping on a dead animal. Now that thought felt cruel. When I reached the dresser, I saw it. His phone was lit up, a faint blue glow pulsing beneath a stack of funeral cards. My name, in tiny letters, scrolled across the screen. An incoming call. From Thomas. I froze. I didn't even breathe. I just stared at that name, half expecting his photo to appear, that goofy selfie he'd taken while we were hiking last summer. But the screen stayed blank except for his name. The phone buzzed once more, then went dark. I snatched it up. The battery icon blinked red, almost empty. I pressed the power button, but the screen stayed black. I don't remember falling asleep. I must have sat in the dark for hours, staring at that dead phone like it might come to life again. By morning, I convinced myself I was just dreaming. Or worse, hallucinating. Grief does things to your mind, they say. But then it happened again. The next night, the same time, 2:13 a.m., the phone buzzed. This time, I forced myself to answer. I pressed my thumb to the green icon, held it to my ear, and whispered, Thomas. There was no voice. Just static, like the hiss of a television turned to a dead channel. I closed my eyes, my chest tight, as I strained to make out any word, any sign that this was him. Then, beneath the static, I heard it, so faint I almost missed it. A breath, like someone exhaling in a dark room. It sent a cold chill down my neck. Thomas? Please. Say something, I begged. Nothing. The line went dead. The phone powered off in my hand. That day, I went to the funeral home to speak to the director. Maybe it was some cruel prank. Maybe someone had taken his SIM card before the burial. But the director looked at me with that same pitying expression everyone wore now. Ma'am, he said softly, I assure you, nothing like that could have happened. We handled everything properly. I drove home feeling more hollow than before. I wanted to believe it was a prank. I wanted a reason, any reason, that didn't mean what I feared it did. That night, I turned off the phone and locked it in my dresser drawer. I went to bed early, telling myself that if it rang again, I'd ignore it. But sleep didn't come easy. At 2:13 a.m., I woke to the sound of a voice. A man's voice. Right outside our bedroom door. It wasn't muffled like a neighbor's TV. It was clear. Familiar. It said my name. I didn't move at first. My heart thudded in my chest so hard I thought it might burst. I lay there, staring at the bedroom door, waiting for the voice to come again. Maybe it was a dream. Maybe it was the echo of my own grief, mocking me in the dark. But then I heard it again. Clearer this time. Anna. My name. Soft, gentle, exactly the way Thomas would say it when he wanted to wake me up without startling me. My breath caught in my throat. I wanted to run to the door and fling it open. I wanted to believe he was standing there, whole and alive, with that crooked smile and sleepy eyes. But my legs wouldn't move. Fear pinned me to the bed. Anna, please. A whisper, right outside the door. Then, 3 slow knocks. The same way Thomas used to knock when he forgot his keys, 3 soft taps so he wouldn't scare me. It was him. It had to be him. Or at least something pretending to be him. I forced myself to sit up, every muscle screaming. I reached for the lamp, fumbling with the switch. The light washed the room in a dull glow, making the shadows in the corners dance. Thomas. I croaked. The knock stopped. Silence flooded the hallway outside. I slipped out of bed, my bare feet hitting the cold floor. Every step toward the door felt like I was walking underwater, slow, heavy, unreal. I pressed my ear to the door. Nothing. No breathing. No footsteps. I counted to 3, then pulled it open. The hallway was empty. The faint scent of Thomas's cologne hung in the air, almost mocking me. I staggered down the hall, peeking into every room. The living room. The kitchen. The spare bedroom. All empty. All exactly as I'd left them. When I turned back toward the bedroom, I saw it. His phone was lying on the floor outside the door, the same phone I'd locked in the dresser drawer. Its screen was dark, but I could feel it vibrating softly against the floorboards. I picked it up with trembling hands. The screen flickered to life, showing a single notification. One new voicemail. I pressed play before I could change my mind. Static poured through the speaker, sharp and cold. Then, beneath it, a voice, my voice. It was me, whispering. I could barely make out the words. He's waiting for you. Let him in. My stomach twisted. I dropped the phone, backing away like it had bitten me. I slammed the bedroom door shut and locked it, my breath coming in short, shallow gasps. Sleep was impossible after that. I sat on the bed with the light on, clutching a blanket around my shoulders, staring at the door like I expected it to burst open. When dawn finally came, I felt like I hadn't slept in years. My hand shook as I made coffee, the mug rattling against the counter. I tried to tell myself it was all a nightmare, that the voicemail, the voice, the knocks, none of it was real. But then I saw the footprints. They were faint, like someone had walked through the house barefoot while it was still dark. Damp impressions leading from the front door down the hall, stopping just outside my bedroom. Thomas always hated walking barefoot on the hardwood. He said it made his feet feel cold. I used to tease him about it. Now, the thought made my skin crawl. I called my sister, Emily. She was the only person who wouldn't look at me like I'd lost my mind. I think someone's been in the house, I said. My voice sounded thin, brittle. Anna, you're exhausted. You need to get out of there for a while, Emily said. Come stay with me. Please. I almost said yes. But then I remembered the look on Thomas's face the night before the accident, how distant he'd been, how he kept glancing over his shoulder like he expected someone to be there. And that stupid phone. It wouldn't stop. Later that afternoon, as I sat on the couch staring at the dark TV screen, the phone buzzed again. This time it was a text. From Thomas. I'm outside. I jumped up, nearly dropping the phone. I ran to the front window and peeked through the curtains. The street was empty. No cars, no people. Just the overgrown lawn and the rusted mailbox he always promised to fix. I texted back with shaking fingers. This isn't funny. Who is this? No reply. Hours passed. I didn't eat. I didn't move from the couch. Every creak in the floorboards made me flinch. When dusk settled over the neighborhood, I saw it, a figure standing at the edge of the yard, just beyond the reach of the streetlight. Tall. Still. Watching. I pressed my face to the glass, trying to see more. The shape was wrong. It was Thomas's height, but it stood too straight, too stiff, like a mannequin propped up by invisible wires. I blinked, and it was gone. Just the empty street, the whisper of wind in the trees. The phone buzzed again in my hand. Another text. Let me in. I didn't reply. I couldn't. My fingers hovered over the screen, but every word I thought to type dissolved into fear. I locked the phone in the kitchen drawer, buried it under takeout menus and old batteries, then sat on the couch hugging my knees like a child. For hours, I just listened. Every creak in the house felt like footsteps. Every gust of wind rattling the windows made my pulse spike. When sleep finally took me, it dragged me down like a stone dropped into deep water. In my dream, Thomas stood in the yard beneath the streetlight, his face in shadow. He didn't move, didn't speak. But his phone was in my hand, and on its screen, words scrolled by too fast to read. I squinted, trying to catch just one sentence. Then his face snapped up, and I saw that his eyes were gone, a hollow, black socket staring straight through me. I woke up screaming, tangled in the blanket on the couch. My throat burned, my mouth dry. Dawn light crept through the curtains, thin and weak. I stumbled into the kitchen to splash water on my face and stopped dead. The drawer was open. The phone was gone. I spun around, half expecting to see him standing there. The kitchen was empty, but the back door was cracked open, letting in the damp morning air. I hadn't unlocked that door in days. I grabbed the baseball bat from the closet, the one Thomas used to keep under our bed. I searched every room, every closet, The basement. Nothing. No footprints this time, no strange shadows. Just me, the bat, and the echo of my own ragged breathing. When I came back upstairs, I found the phone on our bed. It was turned on, resting on Thomas's pillow. The screen was lit up, showing a missed call from my number. My hands trembled so badly I nearly dropped it as I checked the call log. There it was, my own number, 2:13 a.m., just like before. I didn't remember calling. I didn't remember dreaming of doing it. But the time matched exactly. The thought burrowed into my mind like an insect. What if you did call? What if you let him in? I called Emily again. This time I didn't bother pretending I was okay. Emily, I need you to come over, I whispered, my voice hoarse. Anna? What's going on? You sound terrible. Please, Em. Just stay with me tonight. I don't want to be alone. There was a long pause. I could hear her breathing on the other end. That little hitch she always made when she was trying not to sound worried. I'll be there by dinner, she said finally. Promise me you'll keep the doors locked until I get there. I promised. And I meant it. But by dusk, Emily still hadn't shown up. I called her. No answer. I texted. No reply. I tried to calm myself. She probably got stuck in traffic, or maybe she'd fallen asleep on the couch after work. But deep down, I felt it. Something was wrong. I turned every light in the house on. I made sure every window was locked, every door bolted. I even piled furniture in front of the back door, just in case. At exactly 2:13 a.m., I was sitting in the living room, the bat across my lap, the phone on the coffee table in front of me. It lit up. Incoming call, Emily. Relief washed over me so fast it made me dizzy. I snatched the phone up, pressing it to my ear. Emily, where are you? I've been. Static. Loud and sharp, like an old TV on a dead channel. I pulled the phone away, checked the screen. The call was still connected. I could hear something beneath the static, a faint rhythmic sound. I strained to listen. It was breathing. And footsteps. Crunching over gravel, the distant echo of wind. Then, a voice. Not Emily's. Anna. I felt my heart seize up in my chest. I couldn't speak. I couldn't move. Anna, let me in. I ended the call, my thumb shaking so hard I nearly dropped the phone. The living room window behind me rattled. I turned just in time to see a shadow move across the glass. Tall, slow, pacing back and forth. I ran upstairs, locked myself in the bathroom. I could still hear the footsteps outside, circling the house, slow and deliberate. My phone buzzed again and again in my hand. Each time, the same message, let me in. At some point, I must have fallen asleep curled up in the bathtub, the phone clutched to my chest. When I woke, the house was silent again. Morning light streamed through the frosted glass, turning everything into a haze. I checked my phone. One new voicemail. This time, it wasn't static. It was Emily's voice, soft, almost a whisper. Anna, don't open the door. Whatever you do, don't open the door. Then a sound, low and wet, like someone choking. And a second voice, my husband's, bright and warm, exactly the way it used to be. Anna, it's okay now. Let me in. I didn't move for hours after I heard that voicemail. I just sat on the cold bathroom floor, staring at my reflection in the mirror above the sink. I looked like a ghost myself. Hollow eyes, hair matted to my forehead with sweat, lips cracked from whispering his name over and over. At some point, I realized I was rocking back and forth like a child. The voicemail looped in my mind. Don't open the door. Let me in. Emily's voice had sounded so close, so real. But the way it ended, that horrible, wet sound, made bile rise in my throat every time I thought about it. When I finally found the strength to move, I crept out of the bathroom. The house felt different, colder somehow, heavier, like the walls were watching me. I went to the window and peeked through the blinds. The yard was empty. No footprints in the dewy grass. No shape beneath the streetlight. Nothing. The phone was dead again. I didn't bother charging it. I wrapped it in a dish towel and shoved it to the back of the kitchen freezer, behind bags of old vegetables I knew I'd never eat. Something about the cold felt safer, like it might trap whatever was using it to reach me. I tried calling Emily from my own phone, my real number. Straight to voicemail. I left a dozen messages, begging her to tell me she was okay, that she was safe, that none of this was real. No response. By dusk, I'd reached that strange edge of exhaustion where the world starts to flicker. Every sound felt too loud. The fridge hummed like a distant voice. The house creaked like footsteps pacing in the attic. I didn't trust myself to sleep, so I brewed coffee and sat by the front window, staring out at the street. At exactly 2:13 a.m., the doorbell rang. I nearly knocked my mug over as I stood. My heart drummed in my ears, so loud it drowned out the wind rattling the trees outside. I tiptoed to the peephole, pressing my forehead against the cold wood. At first, I saw nothing, just the porch light casting shadows on the warped boards. Then a shape moved forward, just enough to catch the edge of the light. Emily. Or at least, it looked like Emily. She was wearing the same hoodie she'd worn the last time I saw her, a baggy, faded thing with our college logo peeling off the front. Her hair hung limp over her face, but I could see her mouth moving. She was saying my name. I pressed my hand to the door. Relief and terror warred inside me, twisting my stomach into knots. Emily, I called through the wood. Are you okay? She didn't answer at first, just kept whispering. I strained to hear, but her voice was muffled, too soft. Then she leaned closer to the door, her face still hidden by her hair. Anna, open the door. A chill slid down my spine. Something was wrong with her voice, a second tone beneath it, like someone else speaking through her throat. I remembered the voicemail. Don't open the door. I backed away. Emily, if that's really you, tell me something only you'd know. She stilled, her head tilted to the side, slow and unnatural. You don't trust me? The voice cracked, bending at the edges. Anna, please. I'm so cold. Let me in. I pressed my back against the hallway wall, shaking my head. No, you're not her. The figure outside the peephole stiffened, then slammed both hands against the door. The wood rattled, the hinges creaked. It pressed its face closer, and for the first time I saw her eyes. They were empty, hollow sockets, black and deep, just like Thomas's in my dream. But worse, inside the darkness, I thought I saw something moving. Something writhing, like worms in the dirt. The doorbell rang again. And again. Faster, frantic. The voice on the other side dropped the pretense. Let me in. It sounded like Thomas now, his voice, his laugh, layered over Emily's whisper. A chorus of familiar tones melting together into something that didn't belong to any living person. I stumbled backward, tripping over the rug. The door rattled so hard I thought it would burst open. I crawled into the kitchen, slammed the basement door shut behind me, and locked it. Down there, in the musty dark, I sat against the dryer, my breath clouding in the cold. I could still hear it, pounding on the front door, rattling the knob, the voice shifting between my husband, my sister, even my own. Anna, come outside. We can be together again. You don't have to be alone. Let me in. At some point, I must have dozed off. When I woke, sunlight was leaking through the tiny basement window. Silence pressed against my ears, heavy and thick, but somehow comforting. I climbed upstairs, bracing myself for what I might find. The front door was wide open. Outside, the yard was untouched. No footprints. No sign anyone had been there at all. But when I turned back into the house, my stomach dropped. Thomas's phone was sitting on the kitchen counter. Frost still clung to its edges from the freezer, but the screen was on. A new text message glowed on the cracked glass. From Thomas. Tonight, 2:13 a.m. Let me come home. I stood there, staring at that message, feeling the cold from the phone sink into my palms like ice water. Tonight, 2:13 a.m. The same time, the same plea. Let me come home. A part of me wanted to smash the phone to pieces, to fling it into the yard and bury it under the old oak tree Thomas planted when we first moved in. But I knew, deep down, that it wouldn't matter. Whatever this was, it wasn't the phone. It was me. Or it was him. Or both. The hours crawled by like wounded animals. I didn't eat. I didn't shower. I sat on the floor in the hallway, the phone resting on my knees, my eyes glued to the clock on the wall. Each tick felt like a countdown to something I couldn't escape. At 2 a.m., I thought about running. I pictured grabbing my keys, jumping in the car, driving until the sun rose, and this nightmare burned away with the morning fog. But I knew it wouldn't help. I could feel it, like a hook buried deep in my chest, pulling me back every time I thought about leaving. At 2:13 a.m., the phone vibrated. I didn't need to look. I knew. Someone knocked on the front door. 3 soft, familiar taps. I stood on trembling legs, every bone in my body telling me to run the other way. But I walked down the hallway, step by step, until I was staring at the door I'd stared at so many nights before. My fingers brushed the deadbolt. Anna. His voice. So close. So warm. I pressed my forehead to the door, tears burning my eyes. Thomas. I whispered. Let me come home. Please. I squeezed my eyes shut. Memories flooded in, our wedding day, that weekend trip to the cabin, the night he held me when the storm knocked the power out and I was too scared to sleep. All those little moments, stacked on top of each other like fragile glass. I wanted them back. I wanted him back. Why are you doing this? I choked out. You're dead. I buried you. Silence. Then, softer. I don't want to be alone. Neither do you. My hand slipped to the lock. Just a twist. That's all it would take. One twist, and maybe I'd see him again. Maybe we could pretend, just for a moment, that death hadn't stolen him from me. But then I heard it, under his voice. A low, guttural rasp, like something breathing through water. The same wrongness that had twisted Emily's voice, that had whispered through static in dreams. This isn't him. The thought struck so hard I almost gasped. This isn't Thomas. It's something wearing his skin, his voice, his love. My hand froze on the lock. The door rattled, gentle at first, then harder. A slow thud, like a fist hitting wood over and over. Anna. Open the door. No. Anna. The voice shifted, deeper now, colder, vibrating through the floorboards. The knocks turned to pounding. The walls trembled. A picture frame fell from the hallway wall, the glass shattering like brittle ice. Let me in. I stumbled back, clutching the phone to my chest. I ran to the kitchen, the pounding echoing behind me, each slam of the door rattling the dishes in the cupboards. I yanked the phone free and scrolled to the last message. Tonight, 2:13 a.m. I don't know what made me do it. Maybe it was desperation. Maybe I thought if I gave it what it wanted, it would leave me alone. I typed 3 words with shaking thumbs. I'm coming out. The pounding stopped. Silence fell so sudden it rang in my ears. I crept back down the hall, the phone buzzing in my hand like a trapped insect. The door was still. The night outside was so black I couldn't see past the porch light. I opened the door. No one was there. The yard was empty, the street quiet. No wind, no rustling leaves, just the hollow silence of a world holding its breath. I stepped outside, barefoot on the cold wood. The phone buzzed again. A new message. Look behind you. Every hair on my neck stood up. Slowly, I turned. He was standing at the edge of the yard, just beyond the reach of the light. Tall. Still. Exactly like in my dreams. But this time I could see his face, and it was Thomas, but not. His skin was too pale, stretched too tight over sharp bones. His eyes were dark pits, moving things writhing in the shadows beneath. He smiled. Anna. I stumbled backward, my heel catching on the step. The phone fell from my hand, clattering across the porch. I tried to scream, but no sound came out. He stepped forward, slow and deliberate, each footfall leaving no mark on the grass. You let me in, he said, his voice splitting at the edges like broken glass. Now we can be together. He was at the porch steps now, close enough for me to see the tiny shapes crawling just beneath his skin, like veins filled with worms. I scrambled back into the house, but he didn't follow. He just stood there, staring, that broken smile frozen on his face. Anna, he whispered, don't shut me out again. I slammed the door, threw the deadbolt, and pressed my back against the wood. My breath came in ragged sobs. I could hear him outside, not pounding anymore, just scratching. Slow, deliberate scratches, like fingernails tracing my name into the wood. I don't know how long I sat there. When I finally looked through the peephole again, he was gone. It's been 3 days since then. The phone is still on the porch, screen cracked, battery dead. I won't bring it back inside. I won't answer if it buzzes again. I can't. But every night at 2:13 a.m., I hear him, standing outside my door, waiting. And every night, a voice whispers through the crack in the wood, soft and familiar. Let me in.